What's up, everybody? This is straight from the dome. We had a little technical difficulties tonight. Augie lives in some weird apartment that apparently Wi-Fi doesn't work, so we last second threw together a guest. So we have Kevin Burke here from downthetunnel.com. If you haven't seen any of their stuff yet, you definitely need to go to their site and give it a look. They have great stuff on there. Um, Lots of in-depth analysis. They have guys that do great stats stuff. Kevin does a recap every week, I believe, right, Kevin?
Yeah, absolutely.
So everybody say hello to Kevin, and Kevin say hello.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Glad to join you, man.
Appreciate you coming on real quick. We had a fiasco going here, so it's nice what Twitter can do, a quick DM, and we're off and running, or else
Sure,
I was
man.
going
Glad to help.
solo. So I kind of, obviously, this is our Purdue preview show. We're going to get into a couple things tonight. Obviously, we don't have a ton to say about Purdue, but we're going to give a little bit of our analysis on it, and Kevin's going to throw in some thoughts. Um, but we really want to kind of delve into the Shamrock Series as a whole, so just to kind of, what it means to our program and whatnot. But first, we're going to start with kind of our initial thoughts on Purdue. Kevin, I'll let you go first. Kind of just what do you think? What stands out to you? Anything in particular?
If you're gonna ask me what stands out about Purdue to me, it's really how bad they are. To be honest with you, they're just not a very good football team. Going into this game, they still don't have a number one quarterback. Uh, their coach today got an interview or a press conference or whatever he was doing, and he still doesn't know who's starting on Saturday. And this is normally the last day of big practice before walkthroughs, and that's never good. They lost last week pretty badly to Central Michigan. They barely won their season opener against a supposed to be inferior team. They just don't have very much talent on there. I know Danny Hope left that program. I know Hartzell's there now. Didn't leave a lot in the cupboard for him. Um, I think their two running backs have a pretty good amount of speed. However, their offensive line is beat up and they're just not very good. So you could have running backs back there, and that's fine. But if they're not going to get any running lanes, they're going to have some issues. So that normally a Purdue team that is pretty pesky for Notre Dame, just depending on the season. But this year's team is worse than usual, to put it kindly.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of hard. They've beaten Western Michigan at home, then they lose last weekend to Central Michigan at home, pretty handily. Um, it, they're 110th in the country as far as giving up points and points per allowed per game. They've given up 36 points per game to Western Michigan and Central Michigan. So defensively, I don't really see much of an issue. I think I'm kind of worried more offensively because I just kind of looking at the box score from last week. They spread the ball around, especially throwing. And obviously, like you said, you make a great point. They don't really know who their quarterback is, which, at this point in the week, you would hope that they would know that. Um, so, they're going to have some miscues, I guess, because, if they're going to play two quarterbacks, players play differently with each person. Everyone kind of gets in a different flow with each quarterback that's in there. So there's going to be some interesting things that go with that, and I'm kind of curious to see how that goes. They played the Etling guy last week. Majority of the time, he had 32 attempts. The Appleby guy came in late, I'm assuming. I didn't watch the game. Um, but they're only averaging 4 yards pass play, which is not frightening at all. I guess what kind of concerns me for them offensively is they had 10 different guys catch a pass last week, and nobody had more than 5 receptions. That's quite a few. That's spreading the ball around. That's Drew Brees spreading the ball around, and it's, not that anybody there is like physically demanding and physically superior to anybody that we have, but just the fact that they're not afraid to spread the ball around, you can't just take one guy away. Um, just kind of looking at that, they're a pretty highly penalized team. They had 7 penalties last week for 69 yards, and against, like you said, a far less superior opponent. Um, Other than that, offensively, I'm not really concerned. Just it's kind of one of those. it has all the elements of a trap game, like people have kind of been saying all week, like absolutely terrible. Hopefully Notre Dame doesn't play down to their level, and it seems like they kind of have. You can kind of, in the past years, you can kind of give them the benefit of the doubt. With the year that they played in Ireland, some jet lag, whatnot. Obviously, that team already wasn't offensively explosive. We relied a lot on defense and whatnot. So, like, I I'm assuming you don't think it's going to be a trap game, but what do you feel at all like maybe first quarter, second quarter, it might take us a while to get into a rhythm? Do you think anything along those lines, or what are you thinking there?
Uh, I don't. And the reason is that it is the Shamrock Series game. It is being played at an NFL stadium. The players are excited about the uniforms they're going to be wearing. The fans are excited about it. If this game was being played at Notre Dame this week or at Purdue, uh, I probably would still say no, just because of the huge talent disparity. Some of these other Purdue teams they've at least had some quality guys. I know they had Ricardo Allen as a corner. They had some good defensive linemen in the last couple of years that ended up getting drafted. So the team as a whole might not have been good, but they had some quality starters that were able to influence the game a little bit. That's not the case this season for them, though. They're lacking talent all over the field. And this Notre Dame team has got, even if you want to look at the defense and say, all right, Michigan's offense may not be nearly as good as people thought it was going to be, or they just weren't, the whole team wasn't nearly as good. Uh, with that or without it, they're going up against a Purdue team that they should have no problem running the ball, throwing the ball. I know the last 9 games, Purdue's allowing 6 yards a carry, which really means Greg Bryant should be averaging close to 10 because he's got a pretty good yards per carry average. I just think this team is pretty focused with all the offseason stuff they had going on prior to. They had to kind of get used to playing with of a couple guys missing, obviously, with Daniels and Russell and Williams and Kendall Moore and Hardy, 2 guys that weren't as important to the effort as the first 3. But I think it's kind of a double-edged sword with some of these younger players, where they've played well and that's good. But normally, when you think of younger players, you think of an experience, which can be a bad thing. But on the flip side of that is playing a game like this, where it would be a typical trap game. You've got these young guys who are just really pumped to be out there on the field. And so I think that that's really going to offset something like that. At worst, maybe a series or two, maybe. But like I said, I mean, Purdue's defense is not good at all, period. They're giving up yards all over the place. They gave up a lot of points to 2 really bad teams. Everett Golson is playing outstanding football right now. Uh, yeah, he hasn't gotten over 300 yards passing yet. Um, they've had really good field position their first 2 games, and he is making some very, very beautiful looking throws. Got a lot of speed all over the field. It shouldn't be a contest. Period. It should not be close at all.
Yeah, like you said, it's the talent. The talent difference this year is just so much more different than in years past. Um, you kind of touched a little bit on the players right there, and I know you've, especially on Twitter, you have kind of been, kind of sticking your nose out there saying like, why is this not over? What is going on with this? I was with you initially that, when I remember we had both kind of been talking on Twitter. We expected something kind of early before the Rice game even, and now it's just still dragging its feet and dragging its feet. And I saw um, Brian Kelly was talking on Jim Rome or something. I hate Jim Rome, but I caught the interview, and he was talking how it's normally a 3-week process or whatnot, and this is entering the 3rd week. I honestly thought we were gonna have something this week.
I did too.
Yeah, and what do you like? You want to rant about that at all? I know you
Man,
kind of have some thoughts.
I mean, I get it, and there's people doing the defending of it's a long process, it's a that. I mean, yeah, I get that, but the bottom line is this thing's been over. The investigation concluded what 2 3 weeks ago at this point. Like they concluded it prior to the first game, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, or right after it. It's
Yeah, I
been
believe it was. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while, and that was the conclusion. It started in July. So I had no problem if the investigation was still going, like if they didn't say that it was concluded, because then it's we're doing our due diligence, we're getting all the information, we're getting all the facts, we want to make sure we have everything. I completely agree with that. If that thing took 3 months, I'd be fine with it. But as soon as you say the investigation is over, that's when it starts getting okay. You've gotten all of the information. If you're going to say the investigation is over, you have gotten everything. It's concluded. They said that there's no more players that are going to be. They found everything, and now it's just the hearings and the punishment, which I don't see how it takes that long. I know a lot of there's students and faculty members that are on the board that do it. Scheduling, I get it. I know there's other students that are not football players that are involved too. I get it. But this is coming on 3 weeks now. It's Notre Dame. They can find some time. They can put it together. It's and really from what I've read from the bylaws and just reading some things, no, their normal process is once the investigation is done, they do hearings within 4 to 7 days, and that doesn't seem to have been the case here. And so, you know, if they were still gathering facts, I'm with it. I'm cool with it. Take all year if you need to. Get it right. But when you say it's done and then all you have to do is the hearings, I just don't see a reason why they couldn't have been done yet. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and that kind of brings up the question, what exactly are they talking about in these hearings? The investigation is complete. Like, why have the hearings not even taken place yet? Or if they have, why have they been a week or too long? Like, what could they possibly be talking about in those
Well,
hearings?
from what Brian Kelly said earlier this week, they hadn't even taken place yet. So that was what
Why?
from what I understand with the hearing process is you go in there, they present all the information that they have, you are able to refute or whatever, tell your side, whatever you may be, and then they make a decision. Now, the interesting thing that somebody brought up was you can appeal, but there's no way they could have appealed yet because the hearings aren't even done.
Right,
They haven't even had the hearing. You would have to appeal after they came down with a punishment from the initial hearing, and then you would appeal that ruling.
right.
So it just makes it a mind-boggling situation for me. It just seems like it just seems odd. I really would have thought it was going to get done this week. I know the clamoring for it kind of died down after that spanking of Michigan because everyone thought we were going to need those players, and now we're starting to realize the team is still pretty good without them.
Mhm.
Um, but you got to remember with these kids, man, they're sitting in school right.
Mhm.
They're going to school. They have no idea their future.
They're
Some of these
working out.
guys, this is their last year of eligibility. The other guys, they've got careers and they've got other years to go. But with the season starting already, if they were going to get booted, it doesn't matter now because they're going to lose that year. They can't transfer right away. I mean, if they did something wrong, that's their fault. I get it. But there's like a line you cross where you still got to have that kind of speedy attempt at speedy due process, and it just seems like it's kind of lacking a little bit here.
Yeah, and this definitely is going to have an effect on, if like Kavari or Tavares wanted to come back next year, why would they? Like they're gonna why do they want to play for this university that's kind of dragging us out, dragging their feet, making them just sit out, hanging. It's just like come in, play the whatever games you can play, and then go to the NFL. I mean, Kavari's NFL ready. Tavares needs some games this year to kind of he could be NFL ready, but he needs help to get to that point this year. But he's kind of like Atkinson. Atkinson's like, I see depth at the running back position. I know I'm not really NFL ready, but I'm going to go because I'm not going to get any playing time. So why would Daniels come back?
I'm not really I'm not willing to jump that far yet. I know I think the players have to be somewhat smart enough to know, and Coach Kelly has made it very abundantly clear. Uh, it's really like you said, the separation of church and state deal with the university. It's not a football team thing at all. They have no control over it. He might know more than he's saying, which I'm sure he does. He's the head coach. But it's an academic issue. It's not a football issue. So in regards to that, I mean, if they decided to go that route, then fine. I mean, I guess you couldn't blame them. but I would like to give them the benefit of the doubt that they understand that A, this is how things go here. You know about this when you come to Notre Dame, and B, you know it's not the football program. It's not. It's the university as a whole, and it's not just them. It's the other students as well. So yeah, I'd be a little ticked, and I know it's taking longer. I wouldn't make the jump on the conclusion of I'm so ticked that I'm just going to assume to go to the NFL now, even if I get to play this year. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I really hope they don't because I would love to have Cavalry back for another year, especially with Riggs being only a 1 year guy. But that's really jumping way into the middle of the lake right here, and we just got to get through the season first.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It's just something I was just thinking about, and um, I don't know what's going on. We kind of are jumping around here. You there?
Yeah, I got you, man.
Okay. Sorry, something weird was going on. Um, yeah, it's to me, kind of looking at it, it's like if I was one of those players and I knew I didn't do anything wrong, that would make me kind of want to hang out like they are right now. If Tavares knew or Kavari knew that they had done something wrong and they could potentially be kicked out, why would they kind of hang around? Why wouldn't they, you know, de-enroll or however you want to say it and kind of start looking for other opportunities?
You know, I think we're beyond the point of did someone or someone not do or not do something wrong. I think it's pretty safe to assume that all of them did something at this point. It wouldn't have gotten this far. They wouldn't have pulled them out of play. They all did something. I think the point of argument now is the severity of what was done, which I believe is too. I think there's different things that were different infractions. Some that are just blatant, obvious cheating, and then I think some that were knowing about it and just not saying anything. And those are two different ways to see it. They're gonna put out two different punishments for that. But it's one of those that yeah, but you all still did something, so you're all gonna know at the same time. It's not like one of those oh well you're when they're gonna say cleared, they might not even come out and say cleared should some come back. It'll just be time served
Exactly. I was
because
gonna say time
there's
served.
nobody that is completely 100% innocent at this point because they wouldn't have gotten them this far. Now, did some players maybe do something or not even really realize they were doing something or just I mean, if I was on a football team and I knew about it, I probably wouldn't say anything. I mean, that's not probably not the right answer, but you got to think of it from their point of view. You don't want to be that guy who's ratting someone out. You know, so you got to look at it from that view. Yes, it's wrong, and yeah, so that whoever was involved in that, and if that is the case, those will be the guys who will be time served. This is what they did, and they'll get welcome back or whatever. The other guys, who knows? It's just really going to depend on the punishment that gets put out. But yeah, they all did something. It wouldn't have gotten to this point if they didn't. It's just the level of who did what and how much time they're going to get given for what they did.
And obviously, all fans, everybody wants this done and figured out as soon as possible. But we all understand and need to understand that, this is Notre Dame. We do things differently. We hold people to a higher standard. That's what makes this place special. And that's what, I'm such a fan because of the differences that we do than other schools. In a situation like this, I remember hearing somebody say, if this was Alabama, Nick Saban was the first person that would have known. Brian Kelly was in the dark for a while and then was told. The way that Notre Dame handles things and goes and the effort that they put in to make it right and make sure things are done the right way, that and I know you said this as well, like that's what, makes Notre Dame special. And when this kind of came out, I remember we had both kind of tweeted, "Hey, this really kind of puts a damper on Notre Dame's reputation because, this is the second time, well, third time you've had the Daniels incident, but prior to this, you've had Golson. We were concerned about Notre Dame's reputation, and now they are just backing it by, let's take our time, let's make sure everything is correct. And like I said, obviously we want this over with, but Notre Dame is special. There's a reason why people want to come to Notre Dame. There's a reason why people put Notre Dame a game day experience on their bucket list from rival schools everywhere around the country. Overall, it's just a special place, and it makes me happy that they're doing things the right way.
Yeah, I mean, I agree to an extent. I still think that the actual timeline is still getting a little ridiculous at this point. There's a fine line of doing it the right way and being special, which they've done, and that's fine. Just the initial reaction on its own was the right way. But you can still be doing things the right way and and also be taking too long to do them. It, there you can be doing both, and that's just kind of where I'm at with it. I just they've done all that they can do other than actually sit down with them and tell them what is going to happen, and just that getting drawn out longer and longer. I mean, at this point, I'm not even anticipating hearing anything until next week now. I mean, it's the end of the week. The game's on Saturday. You just got to kind of forget about it until after this game. They're not going to announce anything right before it. So just it's another week down, and you just have to be wondering what is the holdup with having the hearings. I completely agree with what you said. Um, you got to love how they handled it. All the initial reports and everything, and people, bashing the university, our academic scandal, and then the facts all come out when really it was just kids being stupid, and then the university just slammed the hammer down on them right away because you screw with Notre Dame's academics and that they will get you. But by agreeing with that, I also just the timeline right now with how long it is taking to finally wrap it up. You would think they would want to have it wrapped up so that way there's closure on it. We just get on with the season. I know Brian Kelly's probably tired of hearing questions about it every time he talks to the media. I mean, the looks on his face, you can just tell he wants it to be over. So yeah, I just it's taking a little longer than I anticipated. Actually, much longer than I anticipated, and it's getting on the borderline ridiculousness. They know what they're doing. It's Notre Dame, but it just seems even that it's getting a little nuts.
At this point, it almost seems like whether it be the 3 weeks holdout or whether it be turned into four, yeah, it kind of just seems like, hey, instead of coming out and saying they were suspended for 3 weeks, we've made it 2 weeks now. The hearings are happening, time served at 3 weeks, instead of coming out and just saying it. You know what I'm getting at there.
Yeah, I mean, I could see them doing something to where, hey, we suspended in the first three games of the year. Here's our bye week, and they're back now. Because people forget the bye week is next week. This is
Yeah, it would
pretty
really
early in
be
the
perfect
season,
timing
so
for them to come back right then. To be
yeah, I
honest, to
mean,
get them.
they could easily announce something next week during the bye week or whatnot, and then they've got 2 weeks to get ready for the next game. But I try not to even think about or try to figure out when they're going to do this because I've been doing that for weeks now, and it's just not worth it. They'll say it when they're going to say it. They don't listen to us fans. Um, you know, they're going to do things the way they want to do it. I know Notre Dame is notorious for being slow through a process. I've heard that from multiple alum as well. It's just the reputation they have, and it's a double-edged sword. It's good that you're being thorough, but sometimes there's a line of being thorough and then just dragging your feet. And I think that they're bordering with that line right now. So
Yeah, and it's clear that they do not care who you are in the
no,
university.
absolutely not. Like that
No,
that I do agree with. It does not matter
yeah,
who you are.
you could be, the star quarterback that led us to the national championship game. You could be Jerry and Grant. You could be McElharney with a marijuana charge. You know, in basketball a couple years back. It does not matter who you
Nope.
are. They are making their point, and I mean, you have to commend it. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're a diehard Michigan fan and you hate us. I mean, that's just,
No,
you have
I do agree with you there. I do, and and in that regard, they do need to make the point because there has been too much of this stuff going on, and I'm not going to be the one to put the blame on Coach Kelly for it. In the end, they're kids, and you can't babysit them all day. Um, as much as Jameis Winston's father thinks that coaches should do that kind of thing, I don't believe that you're trying to teach these guys to be men and do things on their own. So it's not really a coaching staff problem. I've heard people say that. I think that's a cop out. You got to have some accountability for people. People are going to do what they're going to do, even if they know it's wrong. It's a telltale sign. It comes up all the time. Um, you know, so the players did what they were going to do. They're suffering the consequences for it. And it's not like every time this has happened, how many other schools would toss their star quarterback out for a year for whatever it did? How many got there's people that have done things just like this in other schools and conferences, and it's different. So we can all complain about the timeline. I'm not thrilled with it, but in the end, they're doing what they should be doing. and that's really the important part of it.
Yeah, and I mean, let's be honest. We passed, the Michigan game was kind of our big worry in our first four games.
Oh,
We're past
absolutely.
that. We can get through Purdue. We can get through Syracuse. If they're coming back, as long as they're back by Stanford, Florida State, North Carolina, when we hit that heart of that schedule late in the year, I don't really care how long it takes at this
If they're
point.
not back by then, they're not coming back at all, and I'll
And
just
that
say,
would be fine.
even
I'm
if they
just
hadn't
saying if
come
they
back,
were to.
yeah. So we'll know way ahead of that because there is no godly way that it could take that long, especially now with, Kelly coming out and saying, as he's been saying for weeks, should be done. I mean, today he just looked like he was anticipating an answer at any moment, really. So we'll see what happens with it.
Yeah, and he's made it clear, like you said, I want my players back. He's made that point, and he's getting impatient with it, and
Yeah.
that's not something that we want to see. But you know what, like if we got past Michigan, we can get through Purdue and Syracuse. At this point, we're just
Purdue will
coasting.
probably be the worst team we play all season, so there's
Right,
really not a concern there.
right. All right, so let's kind of get back on track for this Purdue game, this Purdue preview. What are you kind of expecting Notre Dame offensively? Obviously, we're going to throw up a million points, but like, what do you kind of want to see? Do you want to see anybody utilize, maybe get him some confidence? What do you kind of want to see you going in?
I want to see Notre Dame on offense get back to using that pistol that they used in the first week against Rice. I know that they didn't run the ball as much or as well against Michigan, which is partially due to game plan, because that's what Michigan wanted to do. They wanted to make Golson throw for some crazy, odd reason. But hey, that's what they did, and it bit him in the ass. But I want to see them get back to running the ball and dominating the line of scrimmage. Purdue's rushing defense is just atrocious. I really think that Notre Dame's capable of getting close to 300 yards rushing on the ground with all three of those running backs. They should be able to run the ball at will when they want to. And I want to see, but I don't want to see them give up on the passing game either. I want to see a balanced attack. I want Golson to get his yards in. You know, for me personally, because I want him to keep those stats going, because I really want to see Notre Dame have another Heisman Trophy winner at some point, and to see him in the discussion. While it, yes, is a little early, it's always just good to see it and hear it. And he's definitely got the talent and potential to be in that contention list toward the end of the year. But this is one of those kind of games where he can go out there and just rack up the numbers, and I would love to see it. Because what I would hate to see is them go in and win big and have him be like, you know, 18 of 21 for like 250 and two touchdowns. Like that's nothing special.
Yeah,
It
that
would
would
still
ruin
be
his
a huge
Heisman.
win and have, I would love to see a huge win with him having a huge part of it, which I think is very reasonable to believe. He's a special player, and I think he's gonna do some big damage against Purdue. But those are the two things offensively I want to see, and defensively, just keep doing what you're doing. They just shut out Michigan with a bunch of young players. They've played 8 true freshmen this year so far, and they have had one penalty. That's insane. That's
Mhm.
nuts.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that. Those are the two things that I want to see them do this week.
Yeah, kind of to hit on your Heisman talk with Everett, it's hard for me right now to kind of put him in that Heisman race. Obviously, big game against Rice can throw him in the conversation. He really didn't do anything spectacular against Michigan. He had 3 touchdowns, and he hasn't turned the ball over, which is huge. But this is the game that's going to either make or break his Heisman run to start through the first 3 games. Okay, I guess I wouldn't say break, but if he, like you said, if he only has 2 touchdowns at 250 yards, he needs this game to. He needs to have 6 touchdowns. He needs to throw for 350 yards. He needs to put up Heisman numbers because he has not put up Heisman numbers yet.
Well,
I
I
mean, he
wouldn't
really
go
hasn't.
I wouldn't
Heisman,
go as
Heisman,
far
Heisman guys are
as
putting up 400 yards and 5 touchdowns every week.
well, yeah, but I mean, come on, Texas A&M is playing Lamar. I mean, that sounds like a high school. I mean, yeah, it's Purdue, and yeah, they're really bad. And yes, I think that this is kind of a moot thing to be arguing because I do think that he's gonna get his.
Hmm.
But I don't. If even if they were to win like 50 something to 10, and he only gets like 250 yards and has 3 touchdowns, you know that's not going to knock him out of the race because really half of the Heisman consideration is not just how you're doing, but your team and how your
Hmm.
team is doing.
Hmm.
So the make or break games for him really are going to be that Florida State game and the Stanford game in the middle of the season. Because if we keep winning and he keeps putting up those good numbers, not turning the ball over and getting touchdowns each week, and then wins those games, he might not have as high of stats as some of the other guys, but with those quality wins and doing that, that's going to put him at the top of the list, and it should because
Yeah, he's gonna.
you shouldn't get better treatment for playing teams that could probably get beat by some of the high school teams around the country. It's just who you play.
Yeah, absolutely. But like you said, when you get to the end of the season, if he beats Stanford and he beats Florida State, let's just hypothetically say he throws for 3 touchdowns those games. That's good performances in those games against great teams. But
Yeah,
if he only throws, 2 touchdowns against Purdue, he needs this game to boost those numbers for the end of the year
yeah, he
when
does. It's
when
just going
we,
to depend on how long they keep him in the game. Because if it's a blowout early, they might pull him in halftime. I mean, I would. Don't get him hurt.
yeah, I would rather win a national championship than have a Heisman Trophy
Yeah,
winner.
I completely agree, and I definitely
So
don't want to lose him. He should be able to put up enough numbers Heisman wise in the first half against this team. Really.
yeah, and all we need is somebody to be in the conversation.
Yeah,
And
it's
next
just
year
nice to
is
have.
really the year for him to kind of have that Heisman year, I feel.
Oh yeah, I
So
just still remember Brady Quinn being in the and you knew he wasn't going to win,
yeah,
but it was just good to have his name there and just being able to follow it. So it's
that's
just
what we
kind of cool
need.
to see him back up in the list. It's early, but unless there's a huge fall off, he should stay up there near the top.
Oh, and don't get me wrong, I'm pulling for it, but I'm just trying to be real as
Oh
far as
no,
numbers go
I
and
completely
whatnot.
understand.
But bottom line, we need him in the conversation. That way,
Sure.
because next year he's going to start the year at the top of the conversation once
Oh
he's in
yeah.
the conversation this year. So, but as far as offensively, yeah, I want to see Everett. I want to see him have a great stats game. Let him get his, like you said. I want to see 2 running backs at least have 100 yards. It'd be great to have 300 yards on the ground. I want to see 600 yards of total offense. I want to see a game here. I want to see a track meet. I want to see 70 something to nothing. But obviously that's probably not realistic, but I want to see things like that. It'd be kind of nice to see them use this game kind of like, hey, let's get Chris Brown in a little bit of a rhythm. He's kind of been a little bit behind the 8 ball. Now things are going to open up for him with the emergence of Fuller and Carlisle. And I would really like to see him kind of get into a rhythm, let him get involved, because I think he could be an extremely explosive asset for us. And it would be nice to see him kind of step up. Touch on the defense, kind of like you said, you know, we should it really should not be an issue. They're not going to outrun us at any position. The running backs, like you said, they're solid running backs, but their talent, we should not be steamrolled at any facet. So kind of just hitting there. I mean, we're in agreement on everything. It's the talent difference is just so large in this game that it's hard to talk about it. You know?
Yeah, I mean, even with as bad as Michigan played, they have way better athletes than Purdue does. So
Absolutely.
that tells you all you need to know, really.
And Brady Hoke can't develop players. We already knew that.
No, that is half their problem.
Yeah,
But
I think I saw when I rewatched the game that they have 3 guys that were either #1 in the entire country or #1 at their position in the recruiting. Gardner was the #1 dual threat quarterback. Peppers was he finished 2 last year or was he
yeah,
the
he didn't play though.
right? Yeah, I know.
He was hurt. And then I know Derek Green was
Green.
like the number one running back.
Yeah, and it's like that they should be developing that talent.
They should.
That's
Yeah,
that's
he's
unreal.
Derek Green's vision. Not very good. There were a couple. I rewatched it earlier today, and there were a couple times he had a wide open hole and it went the wrong way.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, I mean, I'm glad he did, but that's going to be an issue for them down the line. But I'm cool with it. They can suck all they want.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's kind of get into this whole Shamrock Series. It's a whole weekend. It's in an NFL stadium. What are your kind of what are your thoughts on the whole series itself? What does it do for our program? What do you like the most?
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoy it. I think it's developed and gotten better as we've gone along. I remember like the first, you know, Shamrock Series was against Washington State, and it was just a regular game that just was somewhere else. They didn't really hype it as much. Playing Maryland was kind of another step up. They had those special helmets. That was really the only thing that changed. And after that is really when it's blossomed into what it is now, with the special uniforms and the festivities and just like turning an entire city into Notre Dame for a weekend.
Hmm.
I got to go to the Shamrock Series game in Chicago 2 years ago. It was I mean, that's already a Notre Dame town, really.
Hmm.
And it was just cool. There was all the stuff. There's festivities outside of Soldier Field. Just being able to be in an NFL stadium. And it just does so many good things for the entire program, for recruiting and for everything. I mean, it puts the Notre Dame brand um, in places where it normally would not be. I'm looking forward to seeing where they put it in the future because it's a very good tool to use. I think it's a great concept. I love every year kind of figuring out where they're going to do it, who they're going to play. It's a cool, some people don't like giving up that extra home game, which I understand. I mean, I can get that point. But if you go to those games, it is just so much fun. People come in from all over. It's a blast. Like the entire town turns into Notre Dame. There's people everywhere. It's just so much fun. I know the players love it. I think it's an overall win-win for the program, and I think it's one of the many outstanding things that Jack Swarbrick has come up with at his time at Notre Dame to make him one of the best athletic directors in the country.
Yeah, he's definitely taken Kevin White's idea and transformed it into something that's, not any other program in the country can match what we're doing in this series. And like you said, it's huge recruiting tool. It's great for the players. Hey, let's wear some snazzy uniforms. Hey, let's be tradition focused all other times. But hey, let's have a game where we can get these kids who like uniforms, uh, etc. Let's get them that feeling of, let's say, an Oregon, or let's say someone who wears different jerseys every weekend. It's a huge recruiting tool. It's great to see where we go. Like you said, we literally transform whatever city it's in into Notre Dame for that weekend. It's amazing to kind of see our fan base and how they go to that. It's a huge attraction. It's great. It's a great opportunity for, to be in a place where maybe some alumni can actually watch a game that they don't make it into South Bend for. It's a great thing for that. And I think this year's game in Indy is there's a little less to it to me because it's not at Jerry's World in Dallas, or it's not, at Soldier Field. There's a little less to it to me, but I think it's still awesome. Um, Next year at Fenway is going to be unbelievable. I mean, how many people can say that their college team, or how many kids can say, I've got to play a football game at Fenway Park? Um, and we win every game in the Shamrock Series, but we also aren't really playing the absolute best talent in the world in these either. Um, but I kind
Arizona
of
State last year was pretty good. That was a good
absolutely,
that was a good team.
absolutely, I agree with that 100%. Kind of looking forward after Fenway in 2016 and 17, I believe is the years. Yep, 2016, 17. We go back to the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, and that to me is just kind of like the Alamo Dome is old, not a lot of spice to it. And we play Army. It's that to I'm curious, and this kind of leads into what I was going to ask. Where after 2017, after we have these games, where do you think would be great to have these games, and who would you like to play?
I would love if they would go play a Shamrock Series game in Atlanta. I'm a little biased, obviously. I grew up in Atlanta, but getting to go play a game down there in the SEC country, recruiting wise, it's outstanding because a lot of those kids would be able to come straight there. I would love to see them play an SEC team in it. Um, I don't know who, maybe like a Tennessee or I mean they're not going to do Georgia because they're already on the schedule. But get like a Tennessee or like a South Carolina or one of those teams down there that's close to there, and I think that would be an outstanding atmosphere. That would be nuts because there'd be fans all over the place. It'd be a good city to do it. Just kind of a different spot than the areas they've done it before. Obviously, Florida is always a great place to do one because it's Florida. You kind of can't go wrong there. There's also a huge recruiting bed down there because that's really like a huge portion of the Shamrock Series is getting to places where Notre Dame isn't as seen as often to get that brand recognition out there. I always thought it would be cool to go out and play one in Las Vegas. Uh,
Don't really
Recruiting
have the
wise, I don't
venue
know,
out
but
there,
I think that
probably.
would just be that's just like a fan's perspective of being able to go and enjoy that. That would be pretty interesting.
Hmm.
But really getting down into the southeast and getting a couple, um, that would be where I would go. I mean, California is an option, but we're already out there playing Stanford and USC every year, so it's not as
Right.
important to get out there. We already get out there every year, so the southeast would definitely be. The Georgia Dome would be my choice because it's probably the biggest stadium down there. It's right in the heart, and they play the SEC championship game there, and there's big games that are held there. But that would probably be. I would be really excited if they were able to announce something like that.
Yeah, the two places jumped off to me, just just jumped right at me, and one of them was Atlanta. By the time 2017 runs around, when we need to find a new place to have one, they will have that new stadium done as well. So that's going to be huge. Atlanta's building that new stadium. College Football Hall of Fame's down there now. Like you said, that we want to play in Atlanta. We want to play in Georgia because that's a huge recruiting area for us, and we need to get our brand down there. 100% agree there. That place jumped off to me. New stadium, College Football Hall of Fame, heart of recruiting country for us. It just makes total sense to get a game there. And like you said, it'd be great. I mean, it'd be great to play Tennessee again. We used to play Tennessee quite often. It'd be nice to, pop a Tennessee on the schedule. It'd be nice to maybe play like maybe even Florida. I mean, there wouldn't be anything wrong with playing Florida there. Like you said, Georgia's on the schedule and whatnot. The other place that really kind of jumped out to me, and I think I'm more excited about this one, is I feel like it would be awesome to play a Shamrock Series game at Lambeau Field. That just kind of jumped off to me. Like it's
That would
not
be
too.
cool.
Yeah,
That would be cool.
it's an iconic football area, football stadium. Like, hey, let's play Wisconsin there. I mean, that would be to me that would draw a huge crowd. It'd be a huge weekend, kind of like the whole point is. That just really jumped off to me. It wouldn't be as great recruiting wise as Atlanta would be, but that would be an awesome place to, and that would be a place that I would make even more of an effort to go watch that
Oh,
game in that
absolutely.
weekend. All right, well, hey, let's jump into a couple. We kind of started this last week. We just do a little fun little pick 'em. We just take 5 games, kind of just to kind of wrap it up as we go. Um, just kind of quick. Don't really need any analysis. Just if you want to say a sentence about it, whatever you want to say it. Um, we've picked 5 games. Let's go with the first one. Who you have, South Carolina or Georgia?
I got Georgia big in this game. South Carolina's got some serious issues. Not only did they get blown out in the first week of the season to Texas A&M, they had a rough going last week with a very inferior team. They are really missing that quarterback, so I got Georgia big.
Yeah, I give Georgia. Gurley's just a grown man. That the dude's unreal. Who can stop that guy? And I don't think South Carolina's going to
Nobody,
do it.
no, yeah, they're not going to stop him.
Yeah. All right, so we both agree there. How about UCLA and Texas? Obviously, Texas is down, but it's kind of intriguing.
UCLA is going to. I think they're going to bounce back. They've had a couple rough starts to the season. They've won, but they haven't looked too good. Texas is in shambles right now, man. Their quarterback is out for who knows how long. It might be his career now. They're suspending and kicking guys off the team left and right. UCLA will win by at least 20. It shouldn't be close.
Yeah, to me, I feel exactly the same way. The problem with the UCLA thing is everybody kind of had a lot of hype about him. It's kind of like a Mississippi State. Everybody was kind of like, or Ole Miss. Which one is it? I think it's Mississippi State.
No, I think well both, but Ole Miss people were all about because
Okay.
you had
So
some
it's kind
yeah
of similar to that, like, hey, returning their quarterbacks and whatnot. They just haven't really done what people were.
no they haven't looked good.
Right, exactly. But they're going to beat Texas because
Oh yeah,
Texas is
Texas
just
is
behind the
man.
8 ball right now. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I agree there. Oklahoma and Tennessee. Tennessee kind of intrigues me. What do you think here?
Tennessee might be intriguing, and but as much as I hate to say it, and I cannot stand Bob Stoops, he would be calling Ray Rice right now to join his team if he was a college player. Uh, but Oklahoma should win this game pretty comfortably. They got a pretty good amount of talent. Tennessee, they've started off pretty well. Butch Jones is getting that program back, but they're just not there talent wise yet. They still got some issues at quarterback. They haven't really played anybody yet, so Oklahoma should win fairly easily.
Yeah, see, the thing about Tennessee to me though that makes me they for some reason they have some talent and that guy Butch Jones can recruit. He's had some great skill position players there that were freshmen in the last couple of years, but you know I don't think Tennessee is going to be. There's only been what 6 teams in the last like 20 something years to go into Norman and win a game, and Notre Dame happens to be one of them. But Tennessee's not going to be 7. There's no way.
No, they'll get there in a year or two with the talent they're getting,
Yeah,
but they're just
uh-huh.
not there yet.
Yeah, they're definitely recruiting some players. That's for sure. But Oklahoma offensively, that's just Knight's kind of been somewhat inconsistent, and I've been reading some things that they're worried a little bit about that. But he looked brilliant against Alabama last year.
That's how he's been though. He'll look really good and then he'll have just an awful game. He's got to get the consistency up. I don't see them as a playoff contender later in the year. I think they're going to drop a game or two, but not this week.
Yeah, kind of to preview an opponent that we have coming up. We got Louisville and Virginia.
I have got Virginia this week. Everyone was all over Louisville after that opening win against Miami. Uh, but Miami is just, they were not good. They played really, really bad. I watched the whole game. Virginia's got a really good defense, and I think that Miami's bad defense made Louisville look a little better than they were, and they're going to run into a defense that's pretty solid unit. I think it'll be a close game, but I think Virginia will win by a field goal.
I gotta say Louisville here. I like what you're saying there, and you almost convinced me. But we need people on our schedule to win as many games as they can, so it makes us look better. But I understand totally what you're saying. But Louisville, to me, they seem like a pretty solid football team. They don't seem like they remind me kind of like an Arizona State last year. Like you're not going to run over them, you're not going to push them over. A little bit of Petrino kind of has something possibly brewing there in his first year back. He's not an idiot. He may make stupid personal decisions, but he's not an idiot as far as coaching goes. So that's a toss up. I'm just gonna stick with Louisville there. And finally, the whole game this weekend. Kind of we can go into depth a little bit here. Give a score, what you kind of reiterate what you want to see, what do you expect. The big Shamrock Series, Notre Dame and Purdue.
I've got Notre Dame steamrolling Purdue in this game. It's going to be great to watch in person. Notre Dame outmatches Purdue in every facet of this game, talent wise, athlete wise, speed wise, coaching wise, probably water boy wise. I mean, they just they completely outmatch Purdue in every facet. I've got Notre Dame winning 51-6, giving up 2 field goals, keeping Purdue out of the end zone. The entire Boilermaker football program right now is just it is at a low point. They'll get back eventually, but they are lacking some mega talent. They don't have. They're just not looking too good right now. And Notre Dame, I don't think they're going to get too confident over the Michigan win. Their young players are going to still be excited to play. They're going to go out and from start to finish, they're just going to boat race Purdue.
Yeah, Notre Dame's going to win big. I think my score is going to be 63-3. We should have put up 58 points against Rice, so there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to put up 60 against Purdue. We left 10 points on the board against Rice, so to me, we should have. There's no reason we can't score 60 points. I want to see Will Fuller just run past that entire secondary the entire game, and it's just going to be a track meet for us offensively. Um, it, it's just like
It'll be fun to watch.
yeah, for sure. And we're going to be there. A lot of people are going to be there that we kind of know on Twitter. You've met way more people than I have. It's a train wreck every time we try to get together because we're always doing something. We always have our own thing going on, and it's just whatever. One of those things. But
Absolutely, man.
yeah, you're going down tomorrow. You said right about what
Yep, I'll be down
5?
there tomorrow night.
Yeah, I got to work till 4. I might try and get off at like 3, but who knows? There's always something that pops up. So we'll be down there tomorrow night. I don't remember what hotel we're staying in, but I think it's like half mile from the stadium.
Nice.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, hey, we appreciate you coming on. Last second, I know we had some issues with Augie and his internet. Appreciate you coming and filling in again. This is Kevin at Go Irish Glory on Twitter. Go to Down the Tunnel, see their stuff. It's great stuff. They have lots of information that is just interesting to read, and there's always something nice on that side. Dear Dixie is genius. That whole segment, I try and pitch into that every time I can. I try to just literally, I was sitting on the toilet going to the bathroom, and I was tweeting at him the entire time, and I don't know, it just random things popped in my head, and I just started firing them off. So
It's definitely a good idea. I'm glad it's gotten traction.
yeah, so make sure you guys head over there and check out their stuff. They do a show just like this. I don't want to say I copied them, but it gave me the idea. It was easy to start. It's easy to do. They deserve all the credit. I'm not trying to compete in any way. They deserve all the credit. Again, Kevin, appreciate you coming on. Last second,
Yeah, man.
any final
Glad to
thoughts?
be on, and appreciate you inviting me.
Yeah, no problem. All right, we will catch you sometime next week, everybody. I'm hoping to get this on tonight on iTunes as a podcast so we can get more people involved in listening to this because it's hard with the whole YouTube situation. So thanks guys for tuning in. Kev, thanks again, and we will see you guys next week. Go
Absolutely, man.
Irish.
Go Avs.